The Portland trend tapped against the window pane like gentle fingers, playing a rhythm only those accustomed to the Pacific Northwest truly understood. Alex Riley stood at the sink, his hands submerged in soapy water, watching the droplets race down the glass. Through the watery veil, the city lights blurred into a melancholy watercolor. At 28, Alex had learned to find beauty in the ordinary, a skill born from necessity rather than choice. "Dad, I finished my homework," Tyler called from the small dining room table that doubled as his desk. "Can you check my math?" Alex dried his hands, ignoring the dull ache in his chest that had been growing more persistent lately. The apartment was modest, a one-bedroom in Powell division where Tyler slept in the bedroom and Alex on the pull-out couch. What it lacked in space, Alex tried to fill with warmth. Colorful artwork, mostly Tyler's creations, covered the walls, and potted plants claimed every available windowsill, a small rebellion against the gray Oregon skies. "Let me see, buddy," Alex said, settling beside his son. 10-year-old Tyler had Alex's sandy blonde hair, but none of his hesitation. The boy had been in the foster system for 6 years before Alex found him. Or perhaps they had found each other. The journey to fatherhood hadn't been what Alex expected. At 17, when his parents discovered a love letter from another boy, they'd given him 3 hours to pack his belongings. The memory still burned, standing in the rain with a duffel bag and nowhere to go. Homelessness had taught him invisibility. Hunger had taught him resourcefulness. And the Rainbow Youth Center had taught him community. Now, 11 years later, the irony wasn't lost on him. A formerly homeless gay teen fighting to adopt a child no one else seemed to want. The legal battle had been brutal, with pointed questions about his lifestyle and ability to parent as a single gay man. The day the adoption was finalized, Alex had promised himself that Tyler would never know the abandonment he had experienced. "Almost perfect," Alex said, pointing to a multiplication error. "Remember what we practiced?" Tyler's brow furrowed in concentration. The boy struggled with math but attacked every problem with determination. "I carry the one." "That's it." Alex checked his watch. In an hour, he'd need to leave for his night shift at Horizon Tech. His job as a custodian wasn't glamorous, but it paid enough to keep a roof over their heads, even if that roof occasionally leaked during heavy downpours. The pain in his chest flared again. Alex pressed his hand against his sternum, willing it to subside. No health insurance meant no doctor visits unless absolutely necessary. Every dollar saved was another dollar for Tyler's future, or for the 25 kids at Rainbow Haven who reminded Alex so much of himself. "Dad, are you okay?" Tyler's eyes, wise beyond their years, studied Alex's face. "Just tired, bud." Alex forced a smile. "Mrs. Rodriguez will be here soon. What do you want for dinner tomorrow?" "It's my day off." Before Tyler could answer, a knock at the door signaled their neighbor's arrival. Mrs. Rodriguez, a retired teacher who lived down the hall, watched Tyler during Alex's night shifts. Another knock, more insistent this time. "Dad, someone at school asked why I don't have a mom," Tyler said suddenly, his voice small. Alex froze, his hand on the doorknob. "What did you tell them?" "That I have something better. I have you." The simple truth in those words tightened Alex's throat. He knelt down, eye level with his son. "You know what my dad told me when I was little? When you have enough, you share it. We might not have much, but we have enough, and that makes us rich in the ways that matter." The dull pain in his chest returned as he opened the door, but this time Alex barely noticed it. Some aches were worth bearing if it meant keeping his promises. To Tyler, to the kids at Rainbow Haven, and to the frightened 17-year-old he once was, standing alone in the rain. If stories like Alex's move you, stories of quiet courage and unlikely family, follow Heart Stories for more glimpses of the extraordinary hiding within ordinary lives. Rainbow Haven existed in the margins of Portland, both geographically and metaphorically, housed in a weathered Victorian that had seen better decades. The youth center sat on the edge of a neighborhood in transition, not quite gentrified, not completely forgotten. Jessica Martinez, a fiery woman with silver-streaked black hair and hands permanently stained with paint, had founded the center 7 years ago after losing her own son to the streets. Alex arrived just after midnight, his Horizon Tech custodian uniform hidden beneath a worn jacket. The center's porch light flickered, casting uneven shadows across the steps where two teenagers huddled, sharing earbuds and whispered conversations. They straightened when they saw him, offering tired smiles that carried the weight of premature adulthood. "Hey, Mr. Alex," called Marcus, a lanky 16-year-old with close-cropped hair and eyes that revealed both wariness and hope. "I finished that coding exercise you gave me." Alex's exhaustion momentarily lifted. Marcus had been kicked out 6 months ago when his parents found his journal entries about a boy at school. The teen had arrived at Rainbow Haven with nothing but a backpack and dreams of becoming a software engineer, dreams Alex had quietly nurtured through second-hand textbooks and late-night lessons. "Let's take a look inside. It's getting cold." Alex ushered them through the door, noting the new leak in the hallway ceiling, another repair to add to his growing list. Inside, the center hummed with subdued energy. The common room, furnished with mismatched couches and tables salvaged from thrift stores, held a handful of youth in various states of activity, some doing homework, others simply seeking warmth and company. A makeshift kitchen at the back served as the heart of the house, currently overseen by Jessica, who was preparing sandwiches for anyone still hungry. "You're late," Jessica said without looking up, her knife moving rhythmically through a loaf of bread. "And you look terrible." "Charming as always, Jess." Alex shrugged off his jacket, revealing a stain on his uniform where he'd been cleaning the executive bathroom. "The night manager had me redo the CEO's office 3 times. Apparently, I missed a spot." Jessica frowned. "You need to rest. Those kids at Horizon can clean their own toilets for one night. Those kids at Horizon pay my bills." Alex took half of the sandwich she offered and wrapped the other half in a napkin for later. The silent calculations, eat less tonight, have something for tomorrow, had become second nature to him. He pulled a stack of cash from his pocket, exactly half of his weekly paycheck, and placed it on the counter. Jessica's eyes softened, but she said nothing as she added it to the center's meager funds. They both knew it wasn't enough to save Rainbow Haven from the eviction notice taped to the office door, threatening to displace 25 youth in 30 days due to community concerns, a thinly veiled reference to the Conservative Neighborhood Association's campaign against the center. "Marcus needs new glasses," Jessica murmured. "And Lily's cough is getting worse." The familiar weight of responsibility settled on Alex's shoulders. Earlier that week, he'd sold his laptop, his only luxury, to cover emergency dental work for one of the younger kids. Tyler had asked why it was gone, and Alex had invented a story about lending it to a coworker. The kitchen door swung open as Marcus entered with his notebook, eager to show Alex his progress. The code was surprisingly sophisticated, revealing natural talent that far exceeded Alex's self-taught knowledge. "This is really good," Alex said, genuine pride warming in his voice. "You've got a gift for this." Marcus's face brightened, then clouded. "My dad used to say I had a gift for disappointment." Alex recognized the pain behind those words, the wound of rejection still fresh. Some people can't see beyond their own limitations. That's their loss, not yours. Later, as Alex fixed the leaking roof at 2 a.m., balancing on a ladder with his chest pain flaring and fatigue blurring his vision, he questioned his own limitations. What right did he have to mentor these kids when he could barely keep himself afloat? The doubt crept in like the cold air through the center's poorly insulated walls. Yet as he descended the ladder and passed the common room where Marcus had fallen asleep over his coding notebook, Alex was reminded why he pushed himself beyond exhaustion night after night. In a world that had discarded these young people for the crime of being themselves, someone needed to stand as living proof that survival was possible, that rejection wasn't the end of their story, but merely a painful chapter. Outside, Portland's rain had stopped momentarily, leaving a rare glimpse of stars between the clouds. Alex paused to look up, allowing himself a moment of peace before the long walk back to Horizon Tech. The universe was vast, Yet somehow he'd found his small place in it, a bridge between the child he'd been and the adults these youth might become if given half a chance. Sarah from ET didn't mean to start a witch hunt. She'd simply been checking the security feed for a missing badge when she noticed Alex, the night janitor, emptying half his paycheck into the company's charity box. Something about his deliberate movements, the reverence with which he handled the money, struck her as performative. In a moment of cynicism, she snapped a picture and emailed it to Samuel Wilson, the CEO, with a snarky comment about the janitor pretending to be charitable. By morning, the image had spread through Horizon Tech's internal messaging systems. What began as idle curiosity morphed into something uglier as context was stripped away and assumptions rushed to fill the void. Alex became an unwitting spectacle. His private act of generosity transformed into office entertainment. Probably doing it to get noticed, suggested a marketing executive between meetings. Tax write-off, theorized an accountant, though the math made no sense. Trying to compensate for something, snickered a developer, with a crude gesture that made clear he was referring to Alex's sexuality, an aspect of his identity he'd never discussed at work, but had somehow become common knowledge. Alex remained unaware of his newfound notoriety as he mopped the hallways that evening, his movements efficient despite the exhaustion etched in the shadows beneath his eyes. The chest pain had returned, sharper this time, but he ignored it with practiced determination. Tyler's school needed money for a field trip, and Rainbow Haven's electricity bill was overdue. "Riley, in my office, now." Marcus Taylor's voice cut through Alex's thoughts. The director of operations stood in his doorway, arms crossed, his expression a mixture of contempt and something more insidious. Alex followed him, conscious of his uniform's fraying cuffs and the hole in his left shoe. Marcus Taylor's office exuded power through carefully chosen signifiers, golf trophies, framed Ivy League diplomas, photos with minor celebrities. He gestured for Alex to sit, then remained standing, establishing dominance through simple geometry. "Would you care to explain this?" Marcus turned his monitor, revealing the now infamous photo. Alex's confusion must have shown on his face because Marcus continued, impatience edging his voice. "You're making quite a show of your supposed generosity. Not very humble, is it?" "I don't understand," Alex said quietly. "That's the charity box. I donate when I can. Half your paycheck, I hear." Marcus leaned forward. Quite the sacrifice from the company saint. The meeting devolved from there. Marcus never explicitly mentioned Alex's sexuality, but his language was coated with innuendo. References to your lifestyle and people like you always wanting attention. Each barb landed with precision, designed to humiliate rather than discipline. "Whatever game you're playing, it stops now," Marcus concluded. "Horizon Tech doesn't need employees who create distractions. Consider this a warning." Alex left the office with his dignity in tatters, but his resolve intact. This wasn't the first time he'd endured prejudice dressed as professionalism, and the stakes were too high to risk his job. So he nodded, apologized, and returned to his mop and bucket, swallowing the injustice like a bitter pill. That night, his phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "Emergency at Haven, come quick." Alex arrived to find Marcus, his Marcus, not the corporate bully who shared his name, with a split lip and bruised ribs. A group of teenagers had jumped him on his way back from the library, their taunts making clear it was no random attack. "I didn't fight back," Marcus whispered as Alex cleaned his wounds. "I thought it would make it worse." The irony wasn't lost on Alex. Two Marcuses, two very different kinds of violence, both rooted in the same hatred. He considered telling the boy about his own encounter earlier that evening, but decided against it. What lesson would that teach, except that the world never stopped punishing you for being different? Instead, Alex shared what he wished someone had told him at 16. "Your safety matters more than proving a point, but never believe that you deserve this. Not for a second." Later that night, as Alex walked the 3 miles back to Horizon Tech, he couldn't afford gas this week. The pain in his chest intensified until he had to stop. Leaning against a wall, his vision swimming. For a terrifying moment, he couldn't catch his breath. When it finally passed, he continued walking, one foot in front of the other, because stopping wasn't an option. At home, Tyler was becoming increasingly perceptive. The night before, he discovered a drawer of donation receipts while searching for batteries. "Why do we always have macaroni for dinner when you make enough money for better food?" he'd asked, his young face serious with concern. Alex had no easy answer. How do you explain to a child that some wounds can only be healed by preventing others from suffering the same fate, that sometimes giving feels less like charity and more like paying a debt to your past self? The rain had started again, soaking through Alex's thin jacket. Each step toward Horizon Tech felt heavier than the last. Yet he kept moving forward, not because he was brave or noble, but because retreat had never been an option for people who lived in the margins. Sometimes survival itself was an act of defiance. Samuel Wilson had built Horizon Tech with the precision of someone who understood that success was largely about control. His corner office on the 32nd floor offered a panoramic view of Portland, a city he admired but rarely experienced beyond carefully curated restaurants and exclusive events. At 39, he had achieved everything outlined in the 10-year plan he'd created after business school CEO position: industry recognition, financial security, everything except peace. The email about the janitor had initially seemed trivial, office politics beneath his attention. Yet something about the image had lingered in his thoughts. The man's expression as he donated wasn't performative, it was private, almost reverential. It reminded him of something he couldn't quite place. "Mr. Wilson, the quarterly reports are ready for review," his assistant announced, placing a folder on his immaculate desk. "And HR is waiting for your decision on the diversity initiative." Samuel nodded, already mentally calculating how to allocate the next 12 hours between competing priorities. Efficiency was his religion, compartmentalization his practice. Yet as he reached for the folder, his eyes fell on the small silver frame partially hidden behind his monitor, the only personal item in an otherwise impersonal space. His brother Michael smiled from the photograph, his arms slung around Samuel's shoulders at his college graduation. He'd been 19 then, his future stretching before him with promise. 2 years later, he was gone, another statistic of LGBTQ youth suicide after their parents had rejected his coming out. Samuel had been too focused on his early career to intervene, to offer him shelter or support. His silence had been a form of complicity he could never quite forgive himself for. Perhaps that explained his unusual interest in the janitor's story. On impulse, he opened the company's charitable donation records. What he found surprised him. Alex Riley had been donating half his paycheck every month for 5 years, amounting to over $50,000, an extraordinary sum for someone earning barely above minimum wage. Curiosity evolved into something more complicated. That evening, instead of heading home, Samuel waited in his car outside Horizon Tech, watching as Alex emerged from the service entrance. He moved with the careful conservation of energy that spoke of chronic fatigue or illness. When he bypassed the bus stop and began walking, Samuel followed at a discreet distance. The rain had intensified, but Alex didn't increase his pace. After nearly 3 miles, he turned onto a street lined with once grand Victorians, now showing signs of neglect. He approached one with peeling blue paint and a sign barely visible in the darkness. Rainbow Haven Youth Center. Something about the name triggered a memory. Michael had mentioned a similar place in his final year. Somewhere he'd found acceptance when home had become unbearable. Samuel remained in his car, watching through rain-streaked windows as Alex was greeted at the door by 2 teenagers who embraced him with obvious affection, drawn by a need he couldn't articulate. Samuel approached the building. Through a window, he observed Alex in a makeshift classroom, helping a boy with what appeared to be computer code. The contrast between this engaged, passionate teacher and the silent janitor who cleaned his office was jarring. An older woman with silver-streaked hair noticed him peering inside and opened the door. "Can I help you?" Her tone suggested she was accustomed to protecting those within from those without. I'm sorry, I was just... Samuel faltered, his usual corporate confidence deserting him. Is this a shelter? The woman studied his expensive coat and manicured hands with thinly veiled skepticism. Resource Center for LGBTQ youth. Many are homeless or at risk. And the man teaching? That's Alex Riley. He works for my company. Alex keeps this place running, the woman said simply. I'm Jessica Martinez, the director. And you are... Before Samuel could respond, a commotion erupted inside. Alex had collapsed, one hand clutching his chest, his face contorted in pain. Jessica rushed inside, shouting for someone to call an ambulance. Samuel followed, his corporate detachment shattered by the sudden crisis. In the chaos that followed, he found himself in the back of an ambulance alongside a terrified boy introduced as Tyler, Alex's son. The child clutched his father's hand as paramedics attached monitors and administered medication, his small face a study in premature worry. He works too hard, Tyler confided, his voice barely audible above the ambulance siren. He thinks I don't notice, but I do. At the hospital, while Alex was being treated, Samuel learned the full story from Jessica about Alex's past homelessness, his battle to adopt Tyler, the 25 youth who depended on his financial support and mentorship, and the eviction notice threatening to displace them all. Each revelation peeled away another layer of Samuel's carefully constructed worldview. Meanwhile, back at Horizon Tech, he discovered the hostile work environment created by Marcus Taylor and others. The casual homophobia, the targeted harassment, the systematic undermining of someone deemed unworthy of basic respect. All of it happening under his watch, while he remained isolated in his corner office, focused on spreadsheets instead of the human cost of corporate culture. As dawn broke over Portland, Samuel sat in the hospital waiting room, confronting uncomfortable parallels between his silence regarding Alex's treatment and his failure to stand up for Michael years ago. The realization was painful but clarifying. Some second chances arrive disguised as simple choices: to see or remain blind, to act or continue the comfortable pattern of inaction. When the doctor finally emerged with news of Alex's condition, a heart attack brought on by stress and an untreated congenital condition, Samuel had already made his decision. The path forward wasn't about charity or corporate social responsibility. It was about justice, long delayed, but still possible. Outside, the persistent Oregon rain had finally stopped. The city emerged, washed clean in morning light, revealing possibilities previously obscured by shadow. Some transformations begin not with grand gestures, but with the simple choice to really see what has been in front of us all along, and the courage to act on what we discover. The Horizon Tech auditorium had never been so silent. Employees filled every seat, their usual pre-meeting chatter replaced by uncertain glances and whispered speculations. On stage, Samuel Wilson stood beside Alex Riley, no longer invisible in his custodian uniform, but impossible to ignore in his simple button-down shirt, the hospital discharge band still visible on his wrist. Many of you received an email last week containing a photo of this man, Samuel began, his voice carrying the weight of conviction rather than the detached professionalism his staff expected. That email was meant to mock someone for an act of generosity. Today, I want to tell you the full story behind that photo. As Samuel revealed Alex's history and his work with Rainbow Haven, the atmosphere in the room shifted palpably. Discomfort gave way to shame for some, to admiration for others. He detailed the systematic harassment Alex had endured within their company walls, culminating in Marcus Taylor's discriminatory behavior. "This stops today," Samuel declared, turning toward Marcus in the front row. "Mr. Taylor, your employment with Horizon Tech is terminated, effective immediately. Discrimination of any kind has no place in this company." Marcus stood, his face flushed with indignation. "This is ridiculous. You're firing me over a janitor." "No," Samuel replied evenly. "I'm firing you because you violated our code of conduct, created a hostile work environment and demonstrated values fundamentally incompatible with leadership." The security team escorted Marcus out while Samuel continued. unveiling his vision for transformation. The newly established Horizon Hearts Foundation would commit $2 million to save Rainbow Haven and expand its services. Additionally, the company would implement comprehensive reforms in hiring practices, benefits, and insurance coverage for LGBTQ employees. Most importantly, he added, Alex Riley will be joining our executive team as Director of Community Programs, overseeing the foundation with full autonomy to shape its mission. Alex stepped forward, visibly moved by the turn of events. His voice, steady despite his recent health crisis, carried across the stunned audience. Second chances aren't just personal gifts. They're opportunities to create spaces where others don't have to struggle as we did. Every child deserves to be seen, not just for who they might become, but for who they already are. In the months that followed, Portland witnessed a remarkable transformation. Rainbow Haven moved into a renovated community center, expanding its capacity to serve youth in crisis. The local press coverage inspired other businesses to examine their own practices, creating a ripple effect throughout the city. When the controversial housing bill for LGBTQ youth came before the city council, it passed with unprecedented support from the business community. Tyler, once shy and uncertain, blossomed in his newest role as unofficial big brother at Rainbow Haven. His experiences as an adopted child gave him unique insight into the younger kids' fears and hopes. After school, he could be found helping with homework or teaching art classes, his confidence growing with each child who looked up to him. Alex's health improved under proper medical care, though doctors warned that the damage to his heart was permanent, a physical reminder of years spent putting others before himself. Yet he regretted nothing. Each scar told a story of survival, of promises kept against impossible odds. 1 year later, and the formal dedication of the expanded Rainbow Haven campus, Alex stood at the podium looking out at the faces that represented his life's journey. Tyler beaming from the front row, Samuel beside him, Jessica wiping away uncharacteristic tears, Marcus and the other youth who had found their voices and their futures within Rainbow Haven's walls. When I was 17 and homeless, someone told me that true wealth isn't measured by what we keep, but by what we give away. Alex said, I didn't understand then that giving doesn't diminish us. It reveals who we truly are beneath the labels and limitations others place upon us. The standing ovation that followed wasn't just for Alex, but for the truth his story represented. That transformation, both personal and societal, begins with seeing the humanity in those we've been conditioned to overlook. What would you give to change a life? What sacrifice would you make if you knew it could break a cycle of pain for someone who reminds you of your younger self? These aren't hypothetical questions, but choices we face every day in how we treat those whose struggles remain invisible until we choose to truly see. If stories like Alex's touch your heart, stories of unlikely heroes and quiet revolutions, follow Heart Stories for more glimpses into the extraordinary courage hiding within ordinary lives. Because sometimes the most powerful stories aren't found in fiction, but in the quiet sacrifices happening all around us, waiting to be recognized.